Hi friends, thank you so much for joining me today in my record room, once again. I've got a lot of records to talk about, I've got a lot of trivia to get into, but before I do, I just wanted to give out two quick shout outs. The first to Brendan Van D, and the second to Chris Propfee, Musically Obsessed. These two guys also make vinyl community videos here on YouTube, and in my less than 24-hour career thus far, they've been extremely helpful and gracious towards me. So guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. In many ways, you're the reason I'm making this second video. Their channels will be in the description of this video, so check them out, hang out with them, and shoot the shit and talk records with them, because what better is there to do? Nothing. Nothing at all. What I'll be doing today is answering 20 questions, and for each one I'll be showing off some records. So this is going to be my vinyl tag, my first vinyl tag. It's the 2020 Quarantine Edition vinyl tag. So, question number one is, show a record from your home province. I live in the beautiful province of New Brunswick in Canada, so I'll be showing you a band produced in New Brunswick, in actually the city that I live in, the city that I've lived in for most of my life. This is Fear of Lipstick. This is their 2005 or 2006 EP indie band. This guy here, Eric, is a good friend of mine. In many ways, he's why I've been collecting records for so long, since I was so young. I used to hang out at the record shop as a kid, and I would just, for hours upon days, just talking about records with the staff at the local shop, and most notably Eric. So thanks so much, Eric. This one's for you, buddy. Second question. An album that I highly recommend. If you are like me, you've noticed that the world lately is a bit fucked up. Lots of bad things going on, lots of death, lots of destruction, and then we've got the pandemic on top of things. So if you find yourself feeling stressed or frustrated, and you've got anger that you need to get out, but you don't know how to get it out, but you want to get it out in a positive and constructive way, may I suggest to you picking up the album, or you know what, if you're feeling that desperate, stream it. But this is Meantime by Helmet. This is a 2017 reissue of their fantastic second album, which was originally released in '92. Paige Hamilton, their lead vocalist, lead songwriter, and guitarist, is one of my all-time favorite musicians. Just some of the densest, heaviest shit I've ever heard in my life. Excellent, excellent, excellent music when you're frustrated and you don't know what to do with yourself. The best way to describe their music, I guess, would be to say that to listen to Helmet, wear a helmet. As I said, this is a reissue, so unfortunately they don't always come with lyric sheets. This one had nothing but the record in a sleeve. But it is really nice, so I'll show it to you. It's got a nice blue and red bicolor vinyl. Sounds great. So definitely an album I recommend, and a purchase I recommend as well. So Meantime by Helmet. Third question is, what is a tip for beginners? A tip that I could give to beginners is to buy records that you like to buy, and listen to records that you like to listen to. Don't follow the herd. Vinyl is cool now. It's always been cool, but it goes in waves, and it's in a cool wave right now. So lots of teens and lots of younger people, or people who aren't into music as much, are getting into vinyl, and it's fucking awesome. Like, come on, the more the merrier. That said, there is a lot of hive mind mentality going on in some circles. So don't let yourself be intimidated, and don't let yourself be pushed into something that you don't enjoy. And if you don't like buying records, stop buying them. Buy them if you like them, and buy what you enjoy. That is my tip for beginners. Question number 4, the first record that got me into deeper music. Now, I'm not going to show an album that got me into deeper music, because I've been listening to music my entire life, obsessively, multiple styles and types. So I'll show an album by an artist that got me into deeper music, got me into jazz, got me into funk, got me into instrumental music, and really showed me that you don't need to have guitars to be heavy. Heavy can be emotional, and you can feel it in your heart, and that can be heavy. So the artist I'm going to show today is Vince Guaraldi. Vince Guaraldi, he played in the Vince Guaraldi Trio, he played in the Vince Guaraldi Sextet, he played alone as Vince Guaraldi as a solo musician, but basically he's a fantastic, fantastic pianist who, up until his death in the early 70s, wrote all of the music and composed and performed all of the music for the Peanut specials. So you've undoubtedly heard some of this music, but it's beautiful, smooth, and just makes you feel good. And this is, Vince Guaraldi's music is definitely my go-to when I want some jazz, but my first pick for jazz, but also when I'm feeling low, or when I just want to feel good in my sadness. I'll put on Vince Guaraldi. This is a 2019 or 2018 issue of the soundtrack to the It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown special. It had never been pressed previously, and the masters were burned, I think, in a fire. So all of the sound effects and Snoopy's voices are on the tracks. So it is a kind of a bummer in one way because they couldn't isolate the music, but it's beautiful, beautiful music. If you're going to pick up some Charlie Brown or some Vince Guaraldi, this is a good one. This got some really good stuff. The Great Pumpkin Waltz, especially, is just beautiful and haunting. So yeah, Vince Guaraldi, check him out. Question number 5, an obscure record that not everyone may know. This is a great band from Belarus. They're called Molchat Doma. This is their first album. They've got 2 released so far. Their second album I've got on the way to me soon, so can't wait to hear it. I love it. These guys are very gothic, very synth. They remind me a lot of early Bauhaus, early Cure. Very haunting, scary music. You might not want to listen to it with the lights off, but regardless, very, very good. Really good stuff. I can't say enough good things about it. So Molchat Doma, M-O-L-C-H-A-T space D-O-M-A. Check them out. You will not be disappointed. Number 6, a group I collect all the albums of. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I am a completionist. I like to have everything of an artist, of any artist really, but because there's so many artists and bands that I like, I can't devote too much time to a single one. That said, over the past 15, 16 years, I have amassed all of this band's studio albums, and just for fun, I'll show you the live albums that I do own, and one of the 7-inches that I own, or the only 7-inch of them that I own. So the band in question is the excellent Descendents. This is their first album, Milo Goes to College, released in '82. For time's sake, I'll show the records quickly and move on. Oh yes, and also, if I haven't said it already, I won't be showing the records unless they're not black. So if they're black, they'll be staying in the sleeves. Next up, we've got 85's I Don't Want to Grow Up. Fantastic album. A bit less hectic and more melodic than their first. I like the 2 of them pretty well the same. My go-to of the 2, you know what? Depends on my mood. They're both great records. Third up is a compilation of 2 of their 7-inches. This is Descendents Bonus Fat. So Fat being the first 7-inch that they released when Milo joined as vocalist. Bonus Fat, bonus being, this includes their first 7-inch that they had recorded before Milo joined. So it's really cool to have those 2 cuts. Singing is the guitar player on one song and the bass player on the other. Next up is Descendents' third album, Enjoy, released in '86. Now we've got 87's All by the Descendents. This is wicked, man. This record I know gets shit on a lot. Not shit on, but it's usually their least praised, but I love it. You've got Coolidge, Van, Camage, Impressions, Clean Sheets. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. The only bummer I find is with the Descendents is that in the late 80s, early 90s, when SST was putting out their stuff, the CDs would always get bonus tracks that the vinyl copies did not get. So there's a few songs on some of these records that I don't have that are only on the CD, but someday maybe. Next up, we've got 2 of their live albums. We've got Liveage and we've got Hallraker Live. The first serving as a kind of retrospective of their hits or their more melodic stuff, with this one being deeper cuts and more rare songs. So the best way to experience the Descendents live, put both records on back to back, sit back and just have a good time. Next up, we've got the Everything Sucks album. This was the Descendents' 1996 comeback record. Fantastic album. This is, I waited a long time to get this one. This is the 20th anniversary that came out in 2016. Comes with a really cool a bonus 7-inch with some songs that were recorded during the sessions of the original album. So super thankful, super grateful to have this in my collection. Because prior to getting it, it was the last one I couldn't find. I couldn't get it anywhere. So grateful that Epitaph put it back out. Next up, we've got my favorite Descendents album, mostly for emotional or personal reasons, but this is Cool to Be You. This came out in 2004, yes. I was going to say 2014, but 2004. I listened to this album a lot as a teen. Many hours spent listening to these songs. Yeah, so Descendents, Cool to Be You. Next up, I'll just show for fun, is the 7-inch that was released for the song American. American was a single pulled from the Cool to Be You album, which is really cool. It also has Nothing With You, which is on the album, but the reason really that I bought this was for Here With Me and I Quit, the B-sides that are nowhere else. So if it's somewhere, if there's songs that are available, I want them. Next up we've got is Descendents, Hypercaphium Spassinate. This was their album from, I believe, 2016. This was their big comeback album, first album in 12 years. Fantastic stuff. The Descendents never skip a beat. They go from album to album, sometimes 5, 7, 10, 12 years between albums, and it's just like nothing changed. It's like time stands still until they get back into the studio. So fantastic record by the Descendents. Great to have you guys back. Thank you so much for putting this out. Next question is a band whose second album is better than their first. I put a lot of thought into this one. For me, the biggest one that stands out would be this one. This is Duty Now for the Future by the band Devo, one of my favorite bands of all time. Their first album, Q, Are We Not Men? A, We Are Devo, is classic, incredible. You've got hits like Jocko Homo, Mongoloid, Uncontrollable Urge. This album, to me, though, I found it was the perfect mixture between the punk rock and the kind of electronic synthy sounds that they ended up going more towards. But this, to me, is the perfect fusion. My favorite song by Devo of all time, Smart Patrol, Mr. DNA, is featured on here, so I had to. This is my favorite Devo album, that said. But yeah, this album is their second, and I would pick it over their first. Next one is Whack-A-Mole. So I believe this is to walk around and pick a record at random. So let me grab this. And I've got records, as you can see. I've got some over there, and I've got some over here, and I've got some over there. So I'm just going to randomly pick an album and talk about it. Oh, all right. I think I know what it is. This is Face to Face. I believe this is their third album. It came out originally in '96. This is a reissue that came out a few years ago for, I think, Fat's 20th anniversary as a label. It's got 2 covers as bonus tracks. It's got Painted Black, which I'm not a Rolling Stones fan, but it's a cool cover. And they do a version of Please, 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 Let Me Get What I Want by the Smiths. Morrissey's personal bullshit aside, the Smiths is one of my all-time favorite bands, and the version that they do is incredible. I never thought that they could. No, you know what? They didn't top the original, but it comes close. So Face to Face, great punk rock band, early '90s skate punk. Check them out, Face to Face. Next question is an album I've listened to the most. Hard to say because music is my main hobby. It's what I do the most. I'll listen to records or listen to music over watching TV or movies, so it's hard to say which album I listen to the most. But one that I've listened to a whole hell of a lot lately, that I just can't get enough of, is this one here. This is How to Win Friends and Influence People by the Dwarves. The Dwarves, again, one of my favorite bands. Excellent stuff. Quick, fast, hardcore punk, depending on the era. This was originally released in the year 2000, so it came out either right before or right after the Dwarves Come Clean. But what it is essentially, it's a recording session of them re-recording some of their earlier tracks. And usually that kind of not turns me off, but I gravitate towards the original, but this is such a perfect record. Every song is incredible, and I actually prefer the versions of the songs on this album versus their originals. I will show you this record because it is really nice. This is a reissue that came out this year, so it's brand new. Very nice on a red and black kind of splatter of some kind vinyl. So yeah, the Dwarves, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Check it out. Next question on the list is an album with a crazy story. All right, well, this is definitely a crazy story. This is a Japanese pressing of Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time, and it's the first record that I've ever owned. I got this when I was 12, I think. I got it from a record shop in Nova Scotia, Canada. My father picked it up for me, and I remember at the time I didn't have a record player or any records, but it was my most prized possession because I loved Iron Maiden, still do. But I thought the obi was so cool, and the fact that everyone would always say that Japanese vinyl is the way to go. So anyway, that was it. So I loved this record forever. And when I started collecting records, I kept it and it stayed on my shelf. And when I moved out of my parents' house about 10, 11 years ago, I sold this record to pay rent or pay whatever. I sold a lot of my records. This was the hardest one to get rid of because it meant so much to me sentimentally from my father. The cool, interesting story, the crazy story, is that there's a tear in the obi in the back here, and there's a few little imperfections that I know of, that I knew of when I was a kid. And one day when I was at the record shop about 7 or 8 years ago, I found this record again, and it was the same copy. And there's a little scratch on the wax that I remembered. And so if this isn't the same copy, don't tell me. But to me, that's a pretty crazy story. First record I ever got, sold it to pay rent. Years later, by happenstance, it's looking at me straight in the face in the record rack. So thankful to have this record. I'll never sell it again. And yeah, so Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. Up the irons. Next question is, collecting pet peeves. My pet peeves, really, I don't have many. I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to buying records. I like my stuff to be in good shape. I don't like paper sleeves, but there's not much you can do about them. The main thing, I guess, would be when they're packed too tightly in the shelves at stores. I don't know. Who cares? Next question. A genre you may be surprised that I like. Well, we've only just met, so everything is surprising at this point. That said, this is my all-time favorite lyricist, and it's an excellent retrospective of his career that was cut way too short. And that's, of course, I'm talking about Jim Croce. This is The Faces That I've Been. And what it is, it's a beautiful double LP collection that has a nice 8 or 10 page inner book here built into the sleeve, as well as lyrics and notes. It's composed of 3 sides of Croce's rarer cuts, early demos, stuff that came out on his early independent releases, and then a 4th side of just stage banter of him talking to the crowd, telling stories. So it's the closest I feel like I'll ever get to seeing Jim Croce live, but it's just an excellent collection. And if I could recommend a Jim Croce album, it would be The Faces I've Been. So yeah, genre, I guess, folk, Americana, I don't know, but Jim Croce rules, and rest in peace, taken too soon, but your music will live on forever. Next is a record from the year that I was born. Born in 1990. This record came out in 1990. Skinny Puppy, Too Dark Park, one of my favorite industrial bands ever, Canadian band, so I'm proud to talk about them. I believe this is on Blue Wax. No, this is on Black, but great album. Very, very heavy, but not on the guitar side, so kind of like Vince, heavier for other reasons. A lot of keyboards, lots of scary noises, but yeah, Skinny Puppy, Too Dark Park. 1990. And just for fun, I figured I'd show you a single pulled from the album. This is Tormentor, and this one, I believe, yes, this one's on Blue. Both of these are Canadian original pressings that I've had for more years than I can count. Now, next we've got talk about 10-inch records. Like I said before, I don't care if it's on 7-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, flexi, picture disc, shape, lathe. If it's got reverse grooves, I don't care. If it's a song that I don't have in my collection, I want that song. So I'll get the format that it's on. If it's vinyl, I'm a vinyl-only collector. I used to collect CDs, but I can't jump back into that ship. So 10-inch records I'll show you today. This is an excellent hardcore band out of Minneapolis called Sieg. I've got 2 of their 10 inches. This is just Sieg, and I believe this one is called Death to Sieg. Not much is known about them. I found out about them from a comp called When Hell Freezes Over. It's a hardcore comp that was released in, I think, 2000 in Minneapolis, and it featured a ton of great bands. But this band, Sieg, really stuck out to me. So I did some digging. I found them on Discogs, and I ordered these right away. Very, some of the noisiest music I've ever heard, but it's gracefully noisy. There's a female lead vocalist, if you can call her a vocalist. All she really does is holler and yell, but it's really cool. They use a cello in some of their sounds, so it's like, it's just a mishmash of sounds, but an acquired taste for sure, but really good. The other video on my channel, not the one from yesterday, but the previous video, it just says Sieg, the Undermining Yearn. It's actually a song from this 10-inch. I loved it so much that I wanted to show some people. So their music is impossible to find. So I took my cell phone, put it on the ground, put the turntable on, and just recorded the song. So if you want to kind of get a gist of what they sound like, watch that video. Next is a interesting fact about a song or a record. Well, this is more based on the actual album itself. It's kind of a fun fact, so I'll show you this. This is Megadeth Sweating Bullets 12-inch single. Came out 92. Yeah, this is actually really cool because it's got three songs on the A side. We've got Sweating Bullets, which is a remix, which is kind of cool. You got 2 live tracks, but the B side, we've got Symphony Destruction, the Gristle mix, which is a 10-minute remix by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. For a long time, that mix was available in a shorter form, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, on much more commonly found records. But this has the full 10-minute cut. So what's interesting about this record, though, it is on a nice baby blue vinyl. The cool story about this is that the record actually plays backwards. So when you play it, you got to drop the needle into the center, and it plays outwards as opposed to inwards. So I just figured it's interesting. Maybe not everyone's heard of those kinds of things. So yeah, Megadeth Sweating Bullets 12-inch single for my most interesting record. Let's see. The next one here is an album with animals on the cover. This is just came to my mind first thing. This is Alice in Chains, their 3rd album, self-titled. A lot of people call it Tripod because of the dog's 3 legs. This is easily my favorite Alice in Chains record. It's an unfortunate album. It led to a lot of heartache and a lot of depression and drug abuse. But to me, there's nothing heavier. There's no better record than this. This is pure emotion. It's hate. It's anger, it's sadness, and it's all rolled up into just this big ball of fuzz and sludge. And I could not recommend it anymore. You know, if you're kind of down, maybe not your first pick, but if you like Alice in Chains already, you know what I'm talking about. This is fantastic. I got this in Montreal 15 or 16 years ago. When I was there for on a trip with my father. I picked it up for 20 bucks. It's got a corner cut, so either it was a promo or it was for the discount bin. But these albums go for a lot of money, so I'm very lucky to have found an original copy when I did and how I did. There's a lot of bootlegs out, the recent reissues, bootleg reissues. So this is an original, which is just something I want to tell you. Next we've got, let's see, crazy artwork. I couldn't think of much, so I just pulled out an album that kind of freaked me out when I was younger. This is Filth by Swans. It's just creepy looking. Swans is great. Experimental, loud, noisy. No wave, I guess they call it. You know, when you had new wave happening, you had no wave, which was literally the polar opposite. This is really, really heavy shit. Very good though, very good. It's very primitive because it's raw. Came out in '83. But yeah, Swans. Some pretty crazy artwork there. A nice set of teeth. Next, we've got a really good album for cheap. I'm going to show a few here. This is a cool story. I picked up this next 5 or 6 records at Value Village about 10, 11 years ago, and they were all for 99 cents. If you follow punk rock, if you follow vinyl, you know that these are records that are worth more than 99 cents. So to this day, I've never run into such a crazy scenario. So up first, we've got DOA's debut album, Something Better Change. Fantastic, fantastic album. I had it signed by Joey Shithead when I saw them live 5, 6 years ago. Excellent album. He told me not to sell it because he knew how rare it was. Don't worry, Joey, I still got it. Next up, we've got Triumph of the Ignoroids, also by DOA. This is the band cover. It does not have the nudity or the foul language on the cover. Next up is DOA's Hardcore 81. And many people attribute this album with coining the phrase hardcore. And really, yeah, I would say this is probably where the name came from. So yeah, Hardcore 81. Next up, we've got DOA's War on 45. This came out on Alternative Tentacles, I think in 82 or 83, yeah, 82. Found this for 99 cents as well. And 2 more that I picked in that same lot. So that was 4 DOA records. There's 2 more to go. So in total, everything cost me less than $8. We got the first record by the Dickies, The Incredible Shrinking Dickies. Fantastic album. One of my favorite punk rock records ever. Punk rock debuts, I should say, ever. Can't go wrong with any Dickies at any time. And the last record from that haul is a 12-inch, Bleed For Me by Dead Kennedys, obviously from Plastic Surgery Disasters, backed with Life Sentence. So I love B-sides, I love singles, I love music. Next up, we've got a really good album. Oh no, that's the one I just did. We got an album with an acquired taste. This one here, kind of on the same wavelength as Swans. No wave, noisy, experimental, primitive, is Einstürzende Neubauten. These guys are German. I'm sure you've seen the symbol if you haven't heard the name. These guys really influenced a lot of the music that I listen to today. Skinny Puppy, Coil, Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, Ministry, Front 242, it goes on and on. These guys are really, really important. This is an acquired taste because it's fucking noisy. You've got songs where you've got a guy running a chainsaw, banging on steel with sticks, and all the while he's yelling from 20 feet away from a microphone. But it's for what it is, and I love it. I appreciate it for what it is. It's very emotional and raw. So if you can get into it, I would suggest, if you can stick it out, I guess is what I should say, try to stick it out, because these are great. These guys are great. The next, oh yes, I apologize. This is Einstürzende Neubauten, but it's Chaos is the name of the album. This is their first proper studio album. And the last question would be your most recent find. Well, as luck would have it, the postman came today and dropped 2 records off at my doorstep. And so I'll show those to you with glee. The first is SNFU, the one voted most likely to succeed. This is their record from 1995. This is a reissue that just came out on Chase the Glory Records. I could never find an original copy, so super psyched to have this one here. Actually, I'll show you something cool I forgot, so excuse me, I gotta get up and get it. This is a CD inner that I got signed for my wife when we first met 10, 12 years ago. I saw SNFU with my brother in a youth house somewhere in Nova Scotia, and it was by far the greatest show I've ever seen. And Mr. Chai Pig, the vocalist of SNFU, was such a great guy, very gracious and happy to have us there, so he'd sign anything. So my wife's favorite song by SNFU at the time was the Eddie Money cover, Give Me Some Water, so I had Chai write that down for her. So yeah, SNFU, the one voted most likely to succeed. And next up, what the mailman brought me is their live album. Let's Get It Right the First Time. This is the first time this is the first time that I'll be listening to this, actually, probably tonight. I had never heard the live album before because it had not been pressed to vinyl. I'm weird where I have a hard time listening to things that I don't own. I know it's strange, but it's in my head. But yeah, so these are my most recent finds. And kind of like yesterday, I was kind of prepping for this, so I knew it was coming. This was my last record that I show, and we're at 28 minutes, so we are down below a half hour. I'll just show you what I was playing at the beginning of this video. And we've got the Pogues, Hell's Ditch. This is their 5th album, came out in 90. Their last album with Shane MacGowan. I love it. Obviously, Shane isn't featured in as many tracks, but his presence is still felt strongly. I love the Pogues. I love Shane. Highly recommended album, Hell's Ditch. And that will be about it for today. So let me upload this video and we can start the discussion. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time.